Good morning, everyone. Myself, Dr. Usha Vyas. Today, my topic is the comic spirit, the relation between comic and comedy and laughter. There is popular view that there is a necessary connection between comedy and laughter. What then are the occasions in life when we feel tickled or moved enough to laugh? In first place, the mere physical appearance of a person may be a source of comic and hence give rise to laughter. Falstaff, the abnormally pot-bellied, the misshapen wretch, the hag-horned Caliban, the translated bottom with the ass's head, Malvolio with the yellow stocking and cross-gartered besides, Sir Falping Flutter with Beroy suit and piquet shoes and orange jerry gloves. They all walk straight into the lead of comedy. Some peculiarity of physique, some oddity in dress, some awkwardness in gait, these invariably provoke our merriment and we are constrained to laugh in consequence. In the second place, the misuse of language can be immediate cause of much hearty laughter. Mrs. Slipslop in Fielding's novel and Mrs. Malprop in Sheridan's plays are wont to take great liberties with the English language. Mrs. Malaprop gaily talks of nice derangement of epitaphs, of the allegory of the Nile, and of reprehending her oracular tongue. The celebrated Dr. Spooner is supposed to have asked for a well-boiled icicle, spoken of King Kongs, and to have complained that his students were given to hissing his mystery lectures. Shakespeare himself sometimes made characters like Fluellen, Pistol, Nym, Launcelot, Gobbo, and Dogberry eminently laughable through the language. And of course, Congreve's Lady Wishfort is the crowned empress of the whole incredible crowd. In the third place, certain situations in life may evoke our laughter. Antholus and Romeo, twins getting into all sorts of scrapes, thereby giving a sort of mathematical exhibition of the maximum number of erroneous combination of four people taken in pain. While as boy in disguise paying court to Olivia on Count Orsino's behalf being challenged to mortal combat by the cowardly Aguecheek, the vicissitudes in the romantic entanglements of the two pair of lovers in a midsummer's night's dream, husband and wife exchanging occupation, Mr. O. Casey's plight, the end of beginning. In the last place, we may feel like smiling or laughing when we detect some unexpected trait in average human nature. The trait as isolated, exhibited in action, presented from various angles. And the derogation is complete. Here is a man who would have others believe that verily like Leigh Hunt's ban Adham, he lives only to love his fellow men. He pronounces benedictions on others as often as he can, and yet when closely watched, he betrays a violently jealous nature and constantly schemes against the security and safety of his colleagues. A charm thus separates his profession from his own dubious practices. As one unmasks such a tartuffle, one is indignant perhaps, but one may be in a mood to laugh as well. One may feel strong enough to hold much self-deception in utter contempt. It is thus that our laugh is directed against a hypocrite, a miser, a snob, a braggart, or a parasite. Laughter here arises as a result of a clear perception of the clash of character and motive or clash of the individual. Comic spirit or laughter as interpreted by Meredith. Comedy, says Meredith, is sharply to be distinguished from farce, from irony, and from mere humor. The comic spirit breaches in a purely intellectual atmosphere. Its weapons are common sense and wit. Its butt is the mass of vanity, false pride, egoism, sluggishness, and anything else that is antisocial. And result from the audience is standpoint, the same mirth and subdued thoughtful laughter. To Meredith, all life is little more than an ordeal, and he alone succeeds in life who comes through the ordeal unscathed. Meredith's heroes are the traditional young men of aristocracy and of upper middle class whose false idea of what constitutes culture and gentility leads them to live a life of unconcerned idleness upon the fruits of peasants' labor. The comic spirit purifies and rejuvenates these youths and functions as a distilling apparatus. Even Harrington, Harry Richmond, Richard Feverel, and Sir Willoughby are alike victims of the comic spirit and victims both reformed and transformed by it. This is all for today. Thanks for watching.